Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're taking a look at an ultra budget PC case with a couple of different options, which comes in at under £40 and potentially can come with 3 addressable RGB fans, all of which have PWM control. I'm pretty excited about this, hopefully you will be too. So this is the IONZ Pro Gamer Edition. This is the G1 edition of the KZ G1. The naming conventions on these are a little bit weird at times, so bear with me. I'll put some links in the video description so you can check it out for yourselves. Anyway, there is actually a slightly different derivative of this one. So this is the tempered glass edition. There is also a very similar version of this where the front section is mesh. So maybe if you like this design and like the price, but maybe you want a mesh front instead of a glass front, then there's going to be an option for that as well. I'll put that in the video description also so you can check it out for yourselves. This comes in at £33 here in the UK at the time of filming, which is the middle of January 2024. £33 without fans. If you want it with fans, that's the 3 addressable RGB fans, then you're looking at around about £39, which I think is phenomenal value for money. But is it going to be the case for you? So let's go through some of the specifications. We'll go through, do a teardown of the case so you can see what it's all about. But I think you're going to like this one. So let's get straight on with it. So first we'll show you the side of the box. So we've got the model number, KZG1, so the G1 edition, available in black and also in white. So this is the black version we've got today, but there is a white version as well. And also you've got the options there, so including fans or excluding fans. Choice is yours, and again also there is that mesh version as well, which will be linked in the video description. When it comes to the sizes and dimensions, you've got those on the screen there. So you're looking at 365mm by 216mm by 405mm. The carton size, that's pretty much irrelevant, but the materials, so we're looking at 0.6mm, as in the metal. Max CPU fan height, 170mm, so plenty of options there. Maximum VGA length, 320, so you're going to be looking at some of your smaller cards there. Some triple fan models are going to fit, but obviously do your measurements first of all, and potentially there are ways where you can either increase or decrease the space available depending on the fan situation and where they're placed. Motherboard support, like we said, micro ATX or ITX boards. When it comes to hard disk drives, so you can have 2 3.5-inch drives and also 2 2.5-inch drives at the same time in the rear. And also we've got 4 slots because it's a micro ATX setup. Connectivity, we'll take a look at that a little bit later on, and obviously fans that are supported, we'll go through that as well. When it comes to things like water cooling support, again, we'll touch on that as we go through, but realistically, this probably isn't the best suited case for water cooling, to be completely honest with you. It is somewhat more compact. Although, having said that, you can put a 240mm radiator in either the front or actually in the top as well. There's a nice bit of room there for that. Potentially, some you might get a 280 in the front as well, but 360s are probably going to be out of the question. So let's take a quick tour of the case. So as you can see, this there's no PC inside this at the moment, so you're going to have to kind of use a little bit of imagination. There will be some B-roll showing the fans working. We will be doing a full build in this at some point in our live streams, so if you've got any comments or questions regarding this, then do hop into our live streams and you can ask any questions you may have, or otherwise you can join our Discord or potentially just leave a comment in the comments section below. But let's get straight on with it. So the front section, this particular one, tempered glass front panel, clear panel on this one, and you can see there clearly the 2 fans included. So it's 2 120mm fans. Potentially you might squeeze 3 in there at a push, but not really advisable. You can, of course, if you want to swap these out for 140mm, there is options to do that. We'll quickly spin it around so you can see there is actually a little bit of ventilation on the side, because I know some of you are going to be thinking straight away, glass front mic, it's going to be horrendous for airflow. It isn't as bad as you'd think. The fans are actually slapped right up against the glass. Potentially, as you'll be probably seeing for some B-roll, I have actually experimented a little bit, moving the fans behind and also in front, so 2 options there. Basically, it doesn't make a great deal of difference. There's a reasonable amount of airflow there. The fans themselves, they're not particularly high-end fans. They are acceptable, they do the job, but the kind of restriction on the front isn't going to make a great deal of difference, to be completely honest. So from the side, you can see we've got another tempered side glass panel held on with 4 thumb screws, black surround around the outside edges so you don't get fingerprints, etc. Got an enclosed basement on the bottom, which I actually quite like, especially when we're looking at these more budget builds. So if you've got a slightly cheaper power supply in there and you don't want to be broadcasting what is in there, then it's nice that that is all enclosed, as is all of the wiring. So again, that's really nice, and also adds to some of the rigidity of the chassis. On the back, pretty much what you'd expect here. So size for an ATX power supply in here. We'll take a look at that in more depth as we open up the back later. We've got 4 slots there for PCI Express expansion. Sadly, these are the captive ones, so you do have to bend them out, so make sure you do that before you start your build. In terms of actually fixings, so there is a thumb screw there which you can undo, although it's on particularly tight at the moment. So you can slide that across to gain access and keep your cards in place, that kind of thing. You've got a section here for a 120mm fan, which is included in this option. And there's also a little bit of vertical adjustment, should you want to move it up or down a little bit. The choice is entirely up to you. IO shield cutouts, no sharp edges. Pretty good to see. This side, nothing spectacular and no bulges or anything like that going on, so it looks kind of slick. Looking at the bottom, so we can see there is a grab handle on the front, so if you want to remove the front panel, just grab underneath there and push that out. That all comes out. We'll show you that shortly. There's a mounting section here for the hard drive caddy, which is included. Again, you can put two 3.5-inch drives on the caddy, which is there. If it's getting in the way of your power supply for cabling, then you can just remove that if you're not using hard drives, obviously. And you can also mount hard drive directly to the bottom of the chassis rather than using the included mount. When it comes to the basement section for ventilation, there is one of these horrible filters, which you can choose to use or not. And we've got some nice ventilation there, hexagonal mesh, which is always good for airflow. These things are okay, they do the job, but not great. The feet are like nice and raised on there, so you're going to get a bit of airflow into there. And you've got nice big foam pads on there to absorb any vibrations and also to prevent any damage to your surface. Looking at the top, so in terms of I/O, it's actually not too bad considering it is an extremely budget case. So we've got a nice clicky power button, you've got your power LED and also hard drive activity LED, a single USB 3.0 port, two USB 2.0s, a separate dedicated microphone and headset or speaker jack, and there is a reset button which is a little bit further away, so a little bit harder to reach. So if you've got a PC on your desk and you reach up for it, it's unlikely you're going to press reset by mistake when you want to press something else. When it comes to ventilation, removable magnetic filter, as we're always used to seeing. And again, in the top here, you can put in a 240mm radiator if you wanted to. Potentially you might even get a 280 in there. It isn't recommended, but potentially you might do. There is going to be some interference with the motherboard and VRMs and stuff if you do, but 240 is going to be absolutely fine. Or alternatively, you can put in two 120mm fans or two 140mm fans. The choice is up to you. And again, hexagonal mesh, which is great for airflow. So back round to the front, so we'll take off the front panel, which is relatively easy to do. You see glass insert there, plastic surrounds, nice bit of ventilation along there to let the air flow in, even though effectively it looks closed off. It isn't too bad at all. A little bit of adjustment here for fans, so you can move them up or down. I think this is probably the best situation for how they're actually encased within this kind of plastic frame, so it looks nice. You can take these out and put them behind the metal if you want to give you a little bit more airflow, because the airflow then can go in on the side and then straight through rather than kind of swaying its way around the front there. The fans aren't brilliant, they don't move an absolute ton of air, but they are okay for what they need to do. Next we'll take a look inside a little bit closer. So tempered glass side panel, I've taken the thumb screws off already. It doesn't want to fall off straight away, but do be a little bit careful because it's not held in particularly well, but there is a ledge at the bottom holding it in place. Got some clear glass there and protection on both sides straight out of the factory. So then we can take a closer look inside. So again, micro ATX setup on this, so it is a little bit compressed, compact. It is a compact chassis after all. You've got the fan in the back there, 120mm adjustable RGB, two at the front. Ventilation on this bottom deck, so if you want to, you can put a couple of fans in there. They do actually come with a whole bunch of screws and fittings, so if you do want to mount some fans in the bottom to try and pull some of that air that is being sent in into the path of your graphics card, potentially you might want to, because with micro ATX, if you've got a slightly larger graphics card, sometimes it's a bit difficult to get the airflow in there, so actually redirecting some of that airflow might be beneficial. Again, we've got that hexagonal mesh on the bottom here, which is really good for breathing, so even if your graphics card is like slap bang against it, you're still going to get air to it, but it's just not going to be optimal, but it still will get the job done. When it comes to things like pass-throughs, plenty of pass-throughs available, and even at the top where you've got your EPS connector, there is a little bit of a drop down there, so if you are thinking of maybe putting in Radiator, that sort of thing, it's not going to be too difficult to manage. Again, compact cases, always a little bit troublesome in that regard. Standoffs, motherboard standoffs, very important that you install them. We see this a lot on our Discord where people have a PC which doesn't work at all, and it's because the motherboard is shorting out. Luckily, most of these are pre-installed. I did have to add a few extra ones for the far side, and also something which I really like to see is the fact that the middle one here is actually one of those locating lugs. So when you put your motherboard in, it just fits on that locating lug and you know that everything is in exactly the right place. Well done. Other things of note, plenty of pass-throughs at the bottom for your HD audio, USB ports, etc. And if you're wondering, when there's a power supply in there, can you still get good access to it? Yes, I have tried that. You're probably seeing that for some B-roll. Put in a big chunky power supply, the Gamemax one, the 140mm fan, so one of the biggest ones I've got on hand, and still managed to put things through there very easily. When it comes to radiator support on the front, there is a little bit of a cutout here, so if you do want to put a radiator in, potentially you could do. Again, glass front panel, probably not ideal to put a radiator in here, going to be more beneficial at the top, but there is room there should you want to. And if you move the fans to the rear side, there's still about 35mm there to play with if you want to add a radiator as well and have it all on the back side. Next we're going to take a look inside the back, and it's not pretty to be fair, so let's take this off and we'll have a look. Actually the back panel slides in nicely, there's rails top and bottom, and you've got these little clip bits that lock it into place, so yeah, it's nice and sturdy actually, decent panel. I thought it was going to be pretty cheap and terrible, but actually not too bad at all. So looking at the wiring and the pass-throughs, and that is actually very open depending what motherboard you've got. You've got pass-throughs for your connections, etc. You've got your EPS up here, maybe a few more for fans, all that kind of stuff. Something which is really impressive with this, and I think it's where IONZ and I guess other companies are starting to learn their lesson a little bit. We don't like these fans where they're connected together on like a Molex connector, or they're all daisy chained together and it's absolutely horrendous and there's like static speed or static fixed RGB. This is actually a really good step in the right direction. Now the fans aren't terrific, like I said, and I'll let you hear the sound test of those a little bit later on, but I think they've done a really good job in the fact that all of the fans actually have some decent cabling on them. So nice and long for cable management purposes, but each one of them has a dedicated 3-pin 5V addressable RGB and also a pass-through connector, so you can daisy chain them, and the same for the 4-pin PWM. Yep, they are PWM fans. Who'd have thought on a cheap budget case like this? Excellent stuff. So you've got the 4-pin PWM and also the pass-through as well, so you can daisy chain it all up together. The downside of this is you are going to need some kind of addressable RGB controller to actually illuminate the fans. Happily, most motherboards these days generally tend to come with that. If not, it's relatively inexpensive to pick up a standalone controller. We've done videos on those before, like the Cool Moon one, which you're more than welcome to take a look at, and actually I use that for some of the testing on this particular case today. So with all the wires out of the way, you can see what's going on here. So there is an option at the bottom, so you can put in 3.5-inch drive directly mounted to the case if you want to. You can remove that bracket. If you leave the bracket in, you can put one 3.5-inch drive in the bottom. You can also attach one to the top, or a 2.5-inch drive should you wish to. So 2 drives there, and also you've got a removable panel here for SSDs, so two 2.5-inch drives on here. My only consideration here would be to just think about your wiring, because there isn't a huge amount of depth here when it comes to cable management. It's very, very shallow. So if you're trying to get a SATA cable and it's one of those ones which is kind of piggybacked or looped, you might want to make sure that the end one actually goes here, because otherwise there's going to be a chunk of SATA cable and it's not going to work. You probably won't get the back of the case on. Otherwise, for a compact chassis, no problems at all. Again, I put in a big power supply here just to illustrate what you can fit in there. I would probably go with a smaller power supply if you can, even an SFX one if you can get hold of one, if they're cheap enough, but just do bear that in mind, there isn't a huge amount of room here. So we'll quickly go over the connectivity in terms of wiring. So you've got your usual stuff. So there's a reset switch, and also you've got your power LED, hard drive LED, and also the power on. I braided those together just to keep them a bit neater. Then you've got the cables from your additional fans. So again, each one has a PWM, each one has a RGB or addressable RGB connection with pass-through, so you can daisy chain all that up together. They've left a nice bit of length on there as well, so it's not going to be nice and easy to cable manage, hopefully. Also, you've got a USB header, so 2 ports on the USB, that's USB 2.0. You've also got HD audio connection, and again, those pass through really easily, even if there's a power supply installed. So if you put your power supply in first and then think, oh crap, I haven't put my HD audio in, it's going to go in, no problems at all. And also you've got a single USB 3.0 for that single, lonely USB 3.0 connector on the top. So I think overall, when it comes to the case itself, no real problems there at all. I think for the money as well, it is spectacular value for money. It's like £33 or £32 for the case without the fans if you want to add your own, or under £40 with the 3 fans included. Yeah, it's absolutely great. The only thing I would say is obviously just bear in mind the back section is quite shallow for cable management, so one of those power supplies with kind of the flat black cabling or modular cabling is going to be your friend there. Now when it comes to the fans themselves, rotational speeds somewhere between 500 and 1500 RPM. There is a very, very slight click to them. I'm going to let you listen to some of it now. I've taken some footage earlier with them at their lowest speed and also at their highest speed, and also with it just with the fan in my hand. We're testing it on my other computer there just to get an idea of what it sounds like. It's not too bad, and considering if you think the 3 fans together add on £7 to the cost of the case, for a couple of quid each, they're absolutely fine. And I think for OEM builders or for people who are just flipping older systems, These are going to be great, they really are, but let's listen to the actual sound of them and you can make up your own mind. I'll try and put stamps on the bottom as well, so when the volume is going to get louder or quieter, so if you want to crank your volume up so you can hear what they sound like, feel free to do so. This is a sound test of the fans at approximately just over a foot away on their lowest speed. You'll possibly be hearing in the background our wood burner clicking. You might even be able to hear Kath in the background sawing some wood. Same test, fans at full speed. Kath's still sawing wood at the back, so I'll be quiet now. Feel free to turn up the volume. I'll put a marker on the screen before the volume normalizes. So there you go, there are the noise tests. You've seen what the case can do, you've heard about how much it costs, so let us know what you think about this one in the comment section below. Like I said, I will be doing a build in this. I'm trying to work out what I'm going to actually put in it, but as soon as I have worked out, we'll be building this in one of our live streams. Also, we've got a whole bunch more of IONZ cases coming through in the coming days, weeks and months, so do stay tuned for those. And if you want to see more content of this on a daily basis, then consider hitting the subscribe button, then you can hit the chime notification, and that way you'll be notified of all future video releases. But I think for now, that's going to wrap things up. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have, smash that like button, and hopefully, yeah, you'll enjoy this, and check out the links in the video description. So I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.